The Arizona Coyotes effectively put out Calgary's Flame last night.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, joined by my partner in crime, Nick Zararis. And before we dive into it, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Well, we kind of have to come to terms with a few things today, and there's several stages of grief, and today we're going to kind of start with we're just going to joke about it because we're still in denial. So kind of stage 0. And we're going to talk about the organization, the players, and kind of make some crazy predictions that will kind of lead us into training camp, and we'll have to see where things go. But before we dive into that, please make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames and on YouTube as well. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, and just enjoy the ride, because or you can get off. It's entirely up to you. No one's holding you.
Don't get off the ride. Don't get off the ride. We have bills to pay, please.
Yeah. Actually, you can just stay on a little
support.
bit longer.
It's a support group. We all get together and we support each other one day a week, as many times as you check in per week on the show. This is a support group at this point. We all thought things would be going very differently with our lives. We're all contemplating maybe bangs, maybe a tattoo, dyeing our hair. We're all contemplating life choices right now based on how this Flame season has gone.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like we can't be the only ones doing that. Yeah. I'm sure certain players are probably like, what did I just get myself into? There's a difference when you are, in a contract and you can kind of have a little bit of a no movement clause and to look forward to. But most of these players don't have that until years down the road. And we've talked about that. Last night, Jonathan Huberdeau getting that goal was very, I just felt like it was over. Rasmus Anderson, I'm mad at you. It's really not your fault, but you could have made me $17. You scored, but whatever. Support FanDuel today.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's 14, 15 games of the regular season left here, and even though there's nothing to play for, they still got to show up, which is the real thing that sucks now. It's not like in boxing where you get knocked out and they just leave your body in the ring until they smelling salt you back awake. The Flames are down on the mat unconscious, and now they got to play another 14 games from being down on the mat unconscious with pretty much nothing to play for. Anybody who sells you, well, they could still... No, they can't. It's over. It's over. The party's over. There's no more studying. There's no more cramming. There's nothing else you can do. It's over.
Yeah,
for these guys now, like we talked about on Tuesday, for these guys now, it's a matter of the guys who show up in these next 14 games and still give you their best effort and are still plucking away, trying to give an honest effort. Those are the guys you really want to keep an eye on, because those are the ones you want to keep around. This is exactly the time to... This is exactly the situation where you find out what guys are genuinely about, because there's nothing to play for at this point. Mm-hmm. You have seen some of these teams that have folded it in for the season at the deadline, who traded guys away knowing they weren't going anywhere. And you've seen most of those teams fold. You saw the Predators have gone on a weird run here since the deadline where they traded away a couple of significant pieces, but they've arguably been better in the second half as opposed to pre-deadline. They're really the exception. It's time to see if the Flames can kind of find some version of that where it's like, they gave up on us? Well, screw them. Yeah. We're not giving up on ourselves. Even if we don't like anyone, if we don't like what's going on around us, okay. Spite's a powerful motivator. Hater energy, that can get a group up. If they don't like the coach, if they don't like the GM, they don't like the owner, spite that person. Ruin their plans.
Honestly,
I know a lot of people listening to this are like, if they keep losing, they could be like 12th and have a chance at Connor Bedard or Adam Fantilli or Michikov, the Russian kid. You're probably never going to be able to convince a professional athlete losing is in their best interest.
No.
You're never going to be able to convince a coach that losing is in their interest. Because to these guys, it doesn't matter. Some of these guys might not be on the team next year, so it doesn't matter if the Flames get a Connor Bedard or an Adam Fantilli.
Right.
It doesn't matter. For them, it's about going to work and giving an honest effort. That's the thing I'm going to be curious to see as we go down the stretch here with pretty much nothing to play for is who's showing up and who's going to give a real effort and be a guy you want on the team.
Yeah. No, I think right now, Michael Backlund and even Blake Coleman are showing signs of like their reputation era. I think Tyler Toffoli is like on the cusp of just going absolutely off the walls, just because of the way his season is gone. But like the players you want to show up now they're the ones in the locker room that are maybe saying like, hey, we just got to tough it out a little bit more, but with a lot more conviction. Like they have that true leadership quality. And I don't think that it comes back to like naming a captain or anything like that, because it doesn't. Anyone can lead in this locker room. And, you've even seen it with Pelletier coming in and just getting the players happy and excited and celebrating them. And that comes after his debut was dogged by one of the greatest coaches of all time.
It's complicated. All of these moving factors at once make it such a fascinating scenario because most people, they know like they got a vacation coming up or like there's an extended weekend coming up. They're going to start phoning in at work because they know they're not going to be here for a while. And while they're on vacation, it's not anyone's problem. It could be very easy for these guys to say, well, summer's coming. What are we doing in July? Do you guys want to go to Cancun? Do you guys want to go to Europe? Do you want to go to South America? What do you guys want to do? It's very easy to do that. That's why I'm very curious to see how these last 14 games go. And they showed you a little bit last night. Granted, it's Arizona. You probably shouldn't be going to overtime against Arizona. Granted, you probably shouldn't have conceded the first goal you conceded in that game. The Keller goal, all right, you can live with. That's a really good player making a good play. The first goal shouldn't happen. The odd man rush is going back the other way. Again, like we talked about on Tuesday, the same mistakes over and over again, doubling, tripling, quintupling, sextupling down on what they're already doing that's not working. And you get to this situation now where I tweeted it last night as soon as the game ended. The Flames the entire season have been Charlie Brown with Lucy holding the football in front of them. And as soon as the Flames are about to win a close game, the football moves, they miss, and they go flying. That's been the Flames all year, where they just have been unable to find a way to they haven't been able to kick the ball. The ball's been there so many times. What is it, 24, 25 times now?
I think we're closer to 28 now.
Yeah, something in that neighborhood of 26, 27 one-goal games.
Horrible.
That's how many times they've had the football pulled out from in front of them this year. Just demoralizing as hell. And that's why that's another reason why I'm very curious to see what happens here in these last 15, 14 games is they have every reason to phone it in, be demoralized, give crappy efforts. If anybody shows you something down the stretch here, no matter how old they are, no matter how young they are, if they show you something, that's something you can hang your hat on and be proud of as a fan, as a guy on that team, or if it's you yourself who's saying, well, I'm tired of this. I'm doing better because I know I can do better.
Yeah, if someone has to pick up the slack and say, fine, I'll do it myself. I'm so interested to see how this goes because I feel like it could go one of two ways. Like we are going to see a complete sell this summer, or this team is going to look the exact same and it's not going to be pretty if they don't have a different coach.
No, I don't think you could pit. I don't think you could sell the guys on the team on doing that. Darryl, I don't think he cares. I think you could give him any 18 guys and 2 goalies and he would show up for work and instill his system and try and get it to work. I think Darryl, it doesn't matter. The GM, it depends. I read the other day in The Athletic, in one of Pierre's columns about what GMs are under the most pressure, that before the season, when the Flames gave Darryl the extension, that the Flames had tried to work out an extension with Brad, but it started interfering with stuff and they tabled it. But Pierre said he does expect that, and I think he wrote this about a week ago now, he expects that the Flames will circle back and make Brad an offer. It's just a matter of if he wants to take it, if anything has changed in terms of what he wants, or if he just wants to walk away because he realizes this is a bad situation.
Yeah, if it feels like a trap, you're already in one. So we are going to move on here. And before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to tell you all about FanDuel Sportsbook. And they have become one of my frequent flyer apps because I just love checking in on things. And
I love just checking the lines just to know, just out of curiosity. I want to know.
Yeah, there's a commercial where it's like for March Madness, it's like go with your gut, and that's just what I do. I open my FanDuel app and I'm just like, okay, my gut says Rasmus Anderson scoring goal tonight, or it's Jacob Markstrom making 20+ saves, and you can get your no sweat first bet today with up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. And that is very simple to do. All you have to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. And FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. Nick, have you had success with that?
I've had okay success with that. What I'll typically do, the one I was doing for a while that was working was Mika Zibanejad anytime point, Rangers win, Shesterkin 20 saves. That was pretty good for a lot of the season. That's the kind of stuff you got to be looking for, the stacks that make sense.
That is a pretty fair stack right there. And today you can go place your bets at fanduel.com/lockedon to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/lockedon. You get the app too. It's just easier to do it through the web browser first, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Nick, what would you like to talk about?
The idea I had, because it jogged my memory when we were talking about that before. It jogged my memory, and it reminded me when the Flames hired Darryl in the shortened season.
Yeah,
it gave them a legitimate head start on the following season because they had those 15-20 games for him to kind of figure out what he wanted from those guys, figure out how those guys were going to fit. And it was like having an extended preseason. It was like having a real chance to get the ball rolling on next year.
Yeah, it was a free trial.
That is ideally what these next 14 games should be.
Ooh.
With minimal consequences, knowing you're not going to affect your playoff odds. There are things you need to experiment with. You need to get some of those guys up from the AHL team. You need to give Dustin Wolf a start or two. Let him dip his toes in the water, see how ready he looks for the NHL so that you know by the time the preseason comes, okay, we have to start him in the AHL, or maybe he can push for a job at the NHL level. There's a lot of things to consider, and that's the beautiful part of having a 14, 15 game window here is there are no consequences now. If you win these games, fine. If you lose these games, fine.
Great,
you should be using this as a trial and error process of, do you want to try this forward with this forward, these two defensemen together? Do you want to give Wolf more starts? Do you want to give Vladar more starts? Do you want to just ride Markstrom out because you know you're not bringing him back? There's a million things you can do here down this stretch. And that's what a forward-thinking team would do, as opposed to just packing it in, or the clear disconnect that's been growing for a while between the players, the coach, and the front office. Instead of all of that, the GM and the coach should be in agreement here. We know we're not doing anything this year. Right now, these next 15 games, they're about next season. They're about setting the table for what our team is going to be next season. That trickles down to the players being able to buy in and play better because they know they need to do something as far as going into next season. And it gives you more information to use going into your offseason as the front office. If you have answers to these things, you know, okay, Dustin's ready? Okay, then maybe we can have an honest conversation about Markstrom. Okay, this forward's ready? Okay, then we know we don't need to target this free agent or trade for that restricted free agent to fill out our roster. That's what teams do in the month of February leading up to the trade deadline. They use that month to kind of tinker with their lineup to try and figure out what works to see what they need. The Flames should be doing that on a bigger scale here because it's about an entire season going forward, not just 20 games after the trade deadline.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like the thing that I was so excited about when the Flames had just hired Sutter in general was knowing that they had that rest of the season to just work with whatever they wanted. And I still remember everyone tweeting when they got back from Ottawa at the first home practice when Sutter was allowed to be there after quarantining and whatnot. They were doing bag skates. They were doing every sort of physical
test.
Yeah, because that's what they needed. They looked like a beer league team. Granted, things aren't that bad anymore, but there are some nights where, those little mistakes start to spiral, and we've seen it over and over and over again. And I think that's just something that, if they use these last 15 games to just ride that out and work on that, you're still practicing, but there's those in-game moments that are a lot different from when you're just, at your morning skate and then hitting the weight room. And I don't know. I think it's it's a situation you really don't want to be in.
Oh no, this is an awful situation for everybody involved. Nobody wants to be in this position. This is exactly where you don't want to be. You don't want to be between picks 13 and 8 in the draft. This is exactly where you don't want to be.
Yeah, and there's just no, they've run out of rope. There's no more leash for them. It's, they had over. Yeah, we talked about all season. How are they going to turn this around? When are they going to turn the corner? And it just never happened. And it didn't happen with, the 4-game road trip right before Christmas where they had, I think they came home with like 6 points, which was honestly pretty good for what they needed. And where, in terms of where they were headed, that kind of slowed the skid a little bit, but not enough.
No.
They weren't able to really rally in any way, shape, or form. And now it's just kind of, like Nick has said, just it's down to the wire. Just ride it out and hope that someone in that room can kind of muster up the courage and be like, hey, consider this.
You don't even have to do that. Lead by example. If you're not the talking type, go out there and play your butt off. Go out there and set an example for other guys where it's like, oh, he's busting it. All right, I got to go. If he's going to go that hard, I got to play that hard. It's that simple when you're in an environment like this where there's a leadership vacuum. The last point on this, before we move on to the next segment, is just I think there's a real argument that the Flames need to reconsider how they've constructed this roster because they have a lot of overlap where they have a lot of guys who all play the same way. The Flames right now are only constructed to play one type of hockey. They play dump and chase, and if they can't find a way to get the ugly goals to go in that aren't particularly dangerous, it's why they're one of the worst shooting teams in the league because they take a lot of bad shots. Unless they can say, well, this is an anomaly, we can do this, and this better. There's a real argument that you need to reassess how you've constructed this roster. That the talent, though there is considerable talent on this team, the pieces don't fit together in a complementary way. And that's where you need to what you need to reevaluate this summer is, well, we're going to have to move money out to bring money in. We have like 2 or 3 guys who play this same way. What can we move them for that we don't have? What skill set, what toolbox can we bring in for a roster player? What roster player do we have that has value? Can we go and get another roster player for? Not draft picks, not a prospect, somebody else who just has a different skill set. Because right now the Flames have a lot of guys who are energy guys, who have mediocre to bad shots. They have 2-3 good shooters, and that's really it. Everybody else is energy forechecking types where those guys are valuable, don't get me wrong. But without finishing talent, without some size, you're really going to struggle. And that's been the case all year. The Flames have not been able to find a way. You said it perfectly before. We've been waiting all year for them to find a way, to make something happen. And because everybody has the same skill sets, nobody can make anything different happen. It's the same thing times X number of players.
Yeah, no, and it's, Yeah, there's truly nothing else to add because that's just the Flames, and I don't see a world where, you know, they look at things rationally, and by
That's
they I mean mainly the
the owner.
coach and the
I mean the
owner.
owner. Because the
Yeah,
owner sets the agenda. We discussed this back in February.
yeah,
Are you honest with yourself? Do you think you can win the Stanley Cup? If you honestly think that, okay. If you're
yeah.
being dishonest with yourself and saying, well, all we need to do is this, 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 this. If you have like 7 ifs in your sentence to win the Stanley Cup, you can't actually
Then
win the
no,
Stanley Cup. Yeah.
yeah. Just delusion, but that's fine
Yes.
because I mean we've all been there, and some of us just stayed there longer than others. It's fine. But coming up next, we are going to talk about some fun predictions. Yes, we're talking about predictions for next season or in a considerable amount of time in March. You know what? It's fine because again, this is a support group, and sometimes you need to look at the bigger picture in order to kind of accept what the situation and circumstances are. And before we do that, let me tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar will certainly power you through until Darryl Sutter is no longer coach because they are packed with protein and high in fiber, protein, obviously, low in carbs and calories. They're covered in 100% real chocolate, which makes them taste like a candy bar. And you almost feel like it shouldn't be as healthy because you're just like, oh my god, this tastes like a Snickers bar. But it has like actual good things for you, and I love them because I keep some in my gym bag and just keep them. They're so good too in the winter when I leave my bag in the car and just
Oh,
look
yeah.
frozen cold. So good. But you can try them today if you are near a Walmart or a Sam's Club. Run to the pharmacy section and get your flavors today. Or if you are not near either of those things, you can order yours at built.com. When you texted me this prompt, I was like, what is 6 months from now? And then
Nothing
I
in
realized,
particular. It was just this entire episode has been about, well, now that this is over, what
yeah,
lies ahead?
what's
What
next?
can you and figure it out? And the idea behind this is just how outside the box can you think? How creative can you get with this? And the big one for me I think the Flames are going to have at least 2 different defensemen in their top 4 next year. I think there's a real world in which you probably see them move Hanifin this summer and probably Chris Tanev or maybe Nikita Zadorov is a pending unrestricted free agent and he's been 50. But I think Zadorov is absolutely gone. I think they're going to really hope that they can bring Chillington back and have him for next season. He slides into your top 4, and then you try and move Hanifin for somebody a little younger or somebody with more team control because he's 1 year away from UFA. And they've got him at a decent number. You can trade Hanifin and probably get an okay return because he makes less than $5 million. He's played first pair minutes. He can kill penalties. Not a power play guy, which will always hurt your value as a defenseman if you don't accumulate the counting stats because that's really what gets defensemen paid. You can be the best defensive defenseman in the league and you're never going to clear $6-7 million a year. You're always going to need those counting stats to really get paid. But I do think that's my big prediction is they have a real remodeling of the defense after this going into this summer for next season.
You know, I think that would make the most sense. I think that that would have to be one of their top priorities because something has to change. Something absolutely has to change. And, you know, I think we're going to see more of the AHL players, maybe taking a leap. And I don't mean, you know, Lucic, Lewis, and Richie. It's just the other one now. Are all gone in the summer. But I do think that at least I would say, I don't know. I think Lewis and or Lucic stay. But I want to see more of, you know, Matthew Phillips. I don't care. Like, it doesn't make sense why these guys are still in the AHL when they have this kind of a talent and you've seen what Peltz has done for this team.
I hate to tell you, Jess,
It's not
one of the reasons why I think they traded for Dryden Hunt was to replace Lucic or Trevor Lewis on the fourth line for next season.
What are we going to do? Thank God.
I mean, Hunt's better than both of those guys, but I mean, hell, Hunt was playing top 6 minutes on the Rangers as recently as
Holy
last year.
Smokes! I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was the Artemi Panarin Memorial Right Wing Scholarship guy. Where no matter what whatever bad bottom six player the coach had a particular infatuation that week, he was riding opposite Panarin in basically the entire season until they traded for Andrew Kopp. Yeah, they tried Dryden Hunt there, they tried Gaudreau there.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you'll see Dryden Hunt on the Flames NHL roster next year because he won't be expensive. He's a younger version of what Trevor Lewis and Lucic are, and he's shown a little bit more of a flash at the NHL level than those guys. And he's a decent fourth line player.
Yeah,
I echo your sentiments. I would like to see some more youth in the lineup. So one of the reasons, and it's very straightforward, it gives you something to be hopeful about, to like project on. Because these established, older, veteran guys, they are what they are at this point.
Yeah.
You're not going to change them. You're not going to get dramatically different results out of them. At least if you have young guys in the team, you could say, well, maybe this guy's going to pop off. Maybe this guy's going to keep getting better. As opposed to, well, this guy's 28 years old, and he's going to keep giving me close to the average of his production for his entire career. At least if you have young guys, you can sell people on that. Even if the team's not great, but you have young guys who you can project your hopes and dreams onto, that galvanizes people.
The Rangers did that.
And they didn't even do it right.
No.
They did 1 year of that, and they were like, okay, we need to get old guys in here right now.
So, I mean, again, this league is a copycat league, and if they can just do one thing right, I think they'll be okay. Hopefully it's more than one thing and just kind of domino effect.
Okay, I have one question for you before we get out of here.
Oh, no.
1 year from today, it is March...
It's March 15th.
It is March 15th. Is Darryl Sutter the coach of the Calgary Flames on March 15th, 2024?
No.
March 2024, that's not a real year.
That is absolutely not a real year. Oh, my God. No. Is Brad Treliving the general manager of the Calgary Flames in 365 days?
Probably not. No, I don't think he's coming back. I wouldn't come back to this. This is an awful situation. You have the owner and the coach texting each other behind your back. You have no real way of knowing if your owner is being straight with you.
Right.
You don't have a roster that's very flexible, where if you want to remodel this roster, you can do it, but you're going to have to trade good players.
Yeah.
Like Lindholm. You are going to have to trade legitimately good players like Elias Lindholm. You're going to trade players like Noah Hannafin, maybe a Tyler Toffoli. That's really all you got.
Yeah.
You're going to have to trade good players from this group to remodel, and you're not going to sell your 70-something-year-old coach on remodeling the team. Darryl's got it lingering in the background. The bucket's ready to be kicked. He's not standing around. He's not wasting a year of his 70s managing trying to coach a 16th place in the NHL team.
No, and that's the thing. I think Brad Treliving flicks the match and he's walking away, and everything like in the movies just explodes.
Does he walk
Figuratively,
away in slow motion?
Yeah.
Does he walk away in slow motion, or is he going at a normal speed?
Slow motion with his super expensive suit on and his like Ray-Ban sunglasses. He is aviators. Like
I don't remember where I put my sunglasses. Forget it. I can't even do the bit. Bad video.
Everything is just.
It's fun. Everything's fun.
It's fine.
It's St. Patrick's Day Friday. March Madness starts tomorrow.
Yes. Do they celebrate St. Patrick's Day in Canada? Probably.
Yeah. The Leafs wear the St. Patrick's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Well, everyone, be safe. I don't know. Just have fun. This is a support group. Brad Treliving's probably in the Flames players group chat, all having.
You guys seeing this?
Yeah, like it's probably just them like sending like all of like Flames Twitter's tweets to each other, and they're just having a grand old time. Except in that's probably how Lucic blocks everyone. That is the source. Like, this man isn't name searching. They're being sent to him by his teammates. But yes, stay safe, everyone. Have a good weekend. Oh my God, it's only Wednesday. I was going to say next time the Flames play, I'm already checked out in vacation mode. But yeah, we're just going to ride out the rest of this week. the same way. We're riding out the rest of the season, and we'll see you soon.